we are in the NFL, where we knew there were going to be changes abound with these coaches and quarterbacks, and now you add another trifecta, a third act in this theater that's going to be the offseason. Rodgers, Brady, and now Peyton. So multiple sources are reporting that Saints coach Sean Payton, which, by the way, this is not, when I say breaking news, we've talked about Sean Payton stepping away for the last several years on these airwaves. He's decided to step away after 16 years with the franchise. So when you think about it, I mean, look, I can tell you this. I think without a doubt, Sean Payton, yes, a Hall of Fame head coach. We all know that. But I also think there's a little more involved in this. I also think this now opens up again the other floodgates. Like, for instance, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and you're dealing with Mike McCarthy, you don't think Jerry Jones is all of a sudden thinking, wait a second. Now, he stepped away. That doesn't necessarily mean he's coming back to coaching, but it doesn't mean he's not. Because he's a good head coach. Sure, has he had a little bit of a dark cloud, so to speak? Yeah, he had his moments, right? He's had his moments. I mean, we know that. But you look at his record, 152-89. He's 9-8 in the postseason. He's won a Super Bowl. Yeah, we all know about with Williams and everything and the suspension. Hey, man, you know what? We've seen worse in the NFL. You know, I mean, he's kind of been that model guy that has been associated with New Orleans and the Saints for close to 20 years, right? So there's your other act, your third installment, as we like to say. And then you got the Rodgers, and then you have the Tom Brady, and your guess is as good as mine. I think Tom Brady is leaning closer towards retirement, and I think Aaron Rodgers, if he looks around, whether you want to argue the AFC is a conference that he wants no part of, so be it. I think you stick Aaron Rodgers on any team, you make them an instant playoff contender, and in some cases, an instant Super Bowl contender. But if you wait and see, you might be missing out on something, meaning you can't put all your eggs in one basket. But it got me thinking, with the four teams that are left, Championship Sunday, which is a wonderful day in the NFL, how far off Washington, Dallas, the Giants, the Eagles, when you look at these teams, when you look at the Rams and the 49ers, when you look at the Bills and the Chiefs, and, well, really now, the Chiefs and Cincinnati, but you understand what I'm saying. When you look at these teams that have made it this far, they, whether, Tennessee with the bad loss, Buffalo with the heartbreaking loss, Tampa Bay with the heartbreaking loss, how far away are some of these other teams that we're talking about? How far away? Because it's so hard to win 11, 12, 13 games in the NFL. It is. I think it's harder to have this level of consistency. This level of consistency where you know for a fact each and every season you're going to contend. That's tough to do, man. That's really tough to do. It's hard. You got to have the players. You've got to have the coaching staff. You have to have the ownership that's willing to spend. You got to draft the right way. These are not easy things to do. So you look at the Giants, maybe they have found their man in their GM, Schoen. It appears that Dable is going to be their new head coach. You've got Dallas. You still got players in Prescott. Jerry Jones is going to open his playbook. He's going to open up the checkbook for the playbook, right? He's going to open up the checkbook. He's going to spend. But yet, you don't know about the head coach. Then you have Washington that you believe in the head coach. You don't have the players. You don't have the quarterback. Then you have the Philadelphia Eagles where maybe you think you've got some of the players and the head coach, but not necessarily the quarterback. Man, I watched those games over the weekend. I'm a Giants fan, and I can tell you this. The Giants are very far off. Because one of the biggest questions they had to answer this past season was not answered. It wasn't. And that is, can Daniel Jones play a whole season, injury-free, be consistent, put up numbers, and can Saquon bounce back? Those were the two big questions going into the offseason, right, for the Giants into the season. The worst thing you can ever have is not get a question answered. And I don't have the answer to that. Nobody does. Why? Because it hasn't been answered. The Philadelphia Eagles, it was, can you get through a season with a young head coach in Nick Sirianni? Is Jalen Hurts the answer? Well, I think we found out one or two. I think you would be confident or comfortable right now with Sirianni, and there's that divide with Hurts. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, is this the year the Cowboys take that next jump? Can they win in spite of their head coach? And we found out once again, they didn't. And then in Washington, you got a quarterback? Not so much. So all those teams that I mentioned, the answers, the questions that they were being asked, I don't know if you can say with 100% confidence that they were all answered. You have to hit in the draft first and foremost. I don't care who you bring in. I don't care who you hire. If you don't hit in the draft, you're not going to win in this league, man. You're just not. You look at what the Bills have done over the last several years, what Denver's done. Hell, go look at what's happening in San Francisco. Come on, man. You ask any diehard Niners fan, do they want Jimmy G to have the ball down 6, 75 yards to go in under 2 minutes? They would say, hell no. Absolutely not. But you ask them about some of their playmakers, you ask them about some of their defensive players that they were drafted, they would take them every day of the week, twice on Sunday. Same thing in Denver with that defense. Same thing with the Rams in that front. And granted, now they've made some moves. They traded some free agency. But there's a lot of teams in the NFL that have not drafted well. The Giants are one of them. The Jets are another team. Jacksonville, look, they know deep down they shouldn't have drafted a running back. They should have drafted a tackle to help out Trevor Lawrence. That blew up in their face. Cincinnati has drafted well. Buffalo has drafted well. You see where I'm going with this? So you can talk all you want about bringing in the next Vince Lombardi or Bill Belichick. If you don't have a GM that has the wherewithal, and I believe the Eagles do to some extent with Howie Roseman, who's a numbers guy, and I'm hoping Schoen with the Giants is that guy. But if you don't have a GM with the wherewithal, if you don't have the right personnel around you, it doesn't matter who you draft. It doesn't matter who you throw out there. It's got to be this cumulative effort, right, from top to bottom. The franchises that win consistently in the NFL, they have a strong foundation. They've got ownership in place. They've got a GM in place. They know what they're doing, right? They have the plan. It's mapped out. Those are typically the teams that win consistently. And I kind of say that to say this. We started off the show talking about Sean Payton. How about the level of consistency? Now, can we sit there and say, no team has had really some bad losses in the playoffs over the years? Like the Saints, they've had some heartbreaking losses. But given the hand he's been dealt this year, to go 9-8 is a heck of a job. If you look at the Saints over the last 20-something odd years, 15-something odd years, listen, that team has won, man. Now, they haven't won a ton of Super Bowls, but they're constantly a playoff team. There's this level of consistency. Now, you are basically taking away Sean Payton, which means you got to replace him. I don't know if there's a better coach out there to replace the Saints than Sean Payton. I don't know. But I look at this team. Look, You look at their history and what they've been able to do. They've had this level of consistency. And that's all you want. Sean Payton had 2 down years. Prior to that, he went 13-3, 11-5, 13-3, 11-5. They've gotten to the playoffs. Yes, they've had some tough losses, no doubt. He's had, 4 losing seasons out of 16, 17, out of 15 years? Man, I'll sign up for that kind of stability and consistency. I look at Washington, I look at the Giants, I look at the Eagles, and I even look at the Dallas Cowboys. Man, they're not ready for prime time. They're not. They're just not. They're not ready for prime time. And Johnny Mack has said it, and I'm sure he'll say it in a couple minutes. The one thing he loves about the NFL, if you get these guys in place, if you get the right personnel, if you draft well, if you have the good, solid foundation, the head coach, the blueprint, the GM, we're on the same page, we're ready to run through a wall, then you can have quick turnaround in the NFL. Right now, I look at those teams in the NFC East, not even close, man. Not even close. All right, 16 past 4 o'clock hour, just cranking up on a Tuesday edition of BYP. We'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up. Johnny Mack on the other side, football on the 20s. We'll talk a little Eagles NFL with him. A lot of stuff going on right now, as we just mentioned. Looks like Sean Payton has stepped down, which, hey, think about this. Who's going to be the next head coach for the New Orleans Saints? And I still think people look at Sean Payton and say, you know what, he underachieved. I wholeheartedly disagree. But we'll dive into that as well. Lloyd Vance at 5:25. Jovan Alford, a view from Philly from DraftKings at 5:05. You as well. Keep it locked in. 17 past 4 o'clock hour. Quick timeout. Johnny Mack on the other side.